Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 64 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host, Stephen Bullen, recording out of Calgary. And with me, as always, is Ozzy and Zach. We'll go to Ozzy first. Ozzy, how are things?
Things are great, Steve. Happy to have Matt on here, and I'm just living the dream.
Awesome. And Zach, how are things with you, buddy?
Well, as you know, I'm living the dream. Thanks, Oz. I love it when we get that out of you. But yeah, things are good here in Medicine Hat as well. A little rainy. Farmers love it. We love a little bit of it too, so that's good.
And we're all fired up to have joining with us former Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year in 2007 and 2009. Former Winnipeg Blue Bomber starting quarterback with over 64 starts, had 40 wins, 14,977 yards, 89 touchdowns, and a 68% completion percentage, and 9 rushing touchdowns. Can't forget about those. And now with the Toronto Argonauts, Matt Nichols. Woo! Matt, thank you so much, man, for joining us. How are you, and where are you recording from?
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat with you guys. And I'm in Cheney, Washington. It's actually about a mile down the road from Eastern Washington University, where I went to school, right outside of Spokane, Washington. My wife's family is from here. She grew up in Spokane, so this has always kind of been our home base. And then, back and forth to Canada. We've stayed up there year round a few times, but the house that we own is here. We've always kind of just rented as we go up to Canada. You never know how long you're going to be in a city, and obviously, if they could tell you you're going to be somewhere for 5 years, you'd want to maybe buy a house and do all that stuff. But you just never know day to day, year to year where you're going to be, and so. We always have this home base, and then find places to live, go up there.
That's awesome, and especially important nowadays with everything going on. And actually, just today it was announced the CFL is expecting an 8-game season starting in September as kind of a best case scenario. And the best record would host the Grey Cup, so Regina's now hosting in 2022. Do you have any thoughts on this development? Have you and some of your teammates been chatting about this, and how optimistic are you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're always talking. Obviously, everything affects all of us, but I think that all the information is kind of out there. I mean, there's nothing that I know that you guys don't know. For me, it's just hoping for the best, and now at least kind of knowing that September is kind of the aim for starting playing games, which will mean hopefully some kind of training camp in mid-August. So for me, all I can do is, learn this new offense, connect with my new teammates, and train for a mid-August start. And if it doesn't happen, you deal with that then. But my mindset has to be that I'm going to be playing football around that time frame. Otherwise, you can't just all of a sudden get ready once they say we're going. So for me, it's just kind of status quo, and not much different, honestly, from my normal off seasons with everything that's going on, aside from family had to cancel a couple of vacations. But other than that, I mean, we're mostly kind of hang out at home. I work out and hang out with the kids, and so not a ton has really changed for us. Obviously, aside from normally we would be moved up to Toronto in the middle of training camp. So obviously that's a bit different, but overall, it's just kind of preparing for a different time frame now.
Cool. Before I get to my question, I just got to show something here quickly. I am stoked to have you as a Toronto Argonaut, first of all. Can't wait. Big 15 on here. I love it. Second of all, is that a Star Wars shirt that says Hoth?
Well, absolutely it is. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I grew up when I grew up, we didn't have all the streaming platforms or internet or any of that stuff. So for me, it was, it seemed like every other weekend there was the, Star Wars marathon of just episode 4, 5, and 6. And so that was something my dad and I always did. And so I loved it. And I have a cool story about getting to see episode 3 when that came out. But, obviously when 1 through 3 came out and then the new ones came out, I've always been a big Star Wars fan. And then now having a couple of young kids, my oldest is 6, and we're middle of the second Harry Potter book, and we read like little Star Wars ABCs books and stuff. So trying to pass that along a little bit too.
Nice.
Matt, both these boys will attest on how big of a Star Wars fan I am. I was born on May the 4th be with you. I tell people
Yes,
I'm a
like it.
Jedi. So
Happy.
this is awesome.
Yeah,
Wicked.
as soon as you said that you were wearing a Star Wars shirt and you're a big fan, I just like it blew my mind. Now you're on Zach's favorite team, and now like I don't know, it's just serendipitous.
That's so sick.
It's just wild.
All right.
Who's favorite person right now?
That's awesome, Matt. But I guess back to the interview too here. This is going back a little bit before the CFL. What got you into football? How old were you? And you know when you discovered it, football, I guess, is better. How old were you and when you discovered it? What was
Yeah,
that
I mean, ever since I can remember, and when I watch home videos and stuff, I was actually never not wearing a baseball uniform. Like I was like full baseball. There's just videos of me just like sliding in the front yard, just like with no one around. Like looked like a crazy little kid, like sliding to second base. And so I was always huge into baseball. Probably I think it was around third grade. Some of my buddies were playing football, and I ended up deciding to try it out. I grew up in Northern California, where it is like 110 degrees in the summer Fahrenheit. It's gonna be out. I haven't been up in Canada for 7 months, so conversion wise, I mean, it was like 40. It's like 40 in the 40s, and so it was just miserable. My team was awful. So for about 6 years of playing football, I was on a team where basically I started out as a receiver, moved to running back, and then they didn't have anyone that could even take a snap and hand it to me. So they said, you're just going to take the snap and then you're going to run with it. And we never won any games. I couldn't stand it. About my second or third year, I wanted to stop playing. My mom actually, didn't let me quit, and kind of forced me to finish my, this one season. We ended up kind of moving a town over where all of a sudden I was playing with a team that never lost games. And, from about seventh grade through my senior year of high school, I think we lost 3 total games. And so obviously that made it a lot more fun, where I wasn't on a team that was awful. I was a quarterback where I had to run the ball every play, and I was middle linebacker where I had to make every tackle and chase guys 30 yards downfield. Really didn't have much fun playing football at first. And then, luckily my mom made me stick it out. Got with a fun group of guys, and, had amazing experience with football through middle school and high school. And then even through all that, I still thought that baseball was what I was going to play, all the way until about my junior year of high school, and tons of letters started rolling in for football. And I realized that football was by far my better option. And, so really I didn't focus on football being my future until about my junior year of high school.
Would you say that was the point where it became a reality that this could be something you could do professionally, or when did you hit that point where you're like, this is something I want to pursue as a career?
The weird thing is, from a young kid, nobody could tell me different. I was going to be a professional athlete, and I thought it was baseball my whole life until football ended up being my better option. But I don't know how else to explain it aside from I always just knew in my mind I was going to be a pro athlete, and that was what my goal was. And I played, football, baseball, basketball, track and field, golf, all my life. And so, I'm a big supporter of playing multiple sports, and I think that I gained some type of skill or trait from each of those sports that helped me get to where I am with football. And I just think that all those things translate. I didn't get burnt out on one sport because I was just always mixing it up, always playing different sports. And so, for me, I think that I always knew, for some reason, it's hard to explain, but I just knew I was going to be a pro athlete, and I, worked extremely hard to get to that point. But at the same time, like I said, I didn't know it was football until, really probably my senior year of high school. I started getting some calls from some decent schools, and then after my senior year, I actually got scholarship offers. And when that starts happening, obviously your mind starts going crazy on what's possible. But even through really the beginning of my college career, I didn't know for sure I was going to play after college. And luckily I was able to play as a freshman. Went through some big time growing pains, and then my sophomore year was All-American, and kind of figured it out. Was able to be a 4-year starter, which not a lot of people get to do. And really kind of after my sophomore year of college, it was like, I think I can play at the next level.
That's fantastic. Obviously seeing a lot of success as a 4-year starter with those personal accolades, of course. But Matt, what was the hardest part about transitioning to the Canadian style of football from the American style?
Yeah, so for me, I think that one of the things that really helped me was Greg Peach was had a 7-year career in the CFL, D lineman, was my college roommate for 4 years at Eastern, and he ended up not redshirting, even though we were the same class, and he was out a year early, and so he was playing for Edmonton during my senior year of college. And so I started watching some CFL games. I had known about the CFL a little bit before because Ricky Ray is from the same hometown as me, and so I knew about the CFL a little bit. But I wish it was broadcasted more and promoted more in the States because it is such a great game. And as a kid, it's just you don't really have that ability to tap in and watch all the games. I mean, you have that ability now with ESPN Plus, but people still don't know about it. And for me, the biggest difference was obviously you feel like you're learning a new rule every single day. As soon as you get up there and you realize it's 3 downs. Oh, the field's 15 yards wider and it's 10 yards longer and the goalposts are in the front. Like when you start adding it up, it's a lot of different things. Trying to figure out the waggles, an extra guy on the field. But at the same time, as you're learning all these crazy things, when you get back behind center and you take a snap, I mean, it feels like football. And so that was the biggest thing to me was in the film room, it felt super weird. As soon as we got out there on the practice field and I'm taking a snap, you're just reading things out and making plays and doing what you've done your whole life. And so I feel like I got up to speed pretty quick, but it also helped me a lot that I was in training camp with the Cowboys, all through the summer, played a few preseason games. When I got released from there, got to go finish the last 6 weeks or so in Edmonton, which kind of gave me that little bit of knowledge about the game and what I needed to really get up to speed on all off season. And then when I hit my first training camp, I at least had a pretty decent understanding of what I was going into. Is a lot of these guys that come up for just training camp in year one and have no idea, I think can be a lot for someone. And so I think that really helped me a lot, is just coming up in that extent. When they expand the PR roster at the end of the year, that was huge for me to get that experience leading into the next season.
Yeah, I could say getting those extra few weeks at the end of the year, like you said, had to have helped. I'm an Alouettes fan, and so I got to see Johnny Manziel, all the hype around that, saying that he would come up to the Canadian game and just kill it. But I think that he needed a little bit more time to learn the game.
You don't really see many quarterbacks who just come in right away, play. Like sometimes playing immediately can be one of the worst things for you. Even if you have a little bit of success, you're going to go through these massive growing pains. And, it's hard in a 9-team league where you need to win to really give someone that long leash that's really needed. And so, even for me, it was, 2010 practice roster, 2011 IR, when some of the rules were a little bit different back then, where I wasn't hurt and I was just, practicing and just not dressing for games. 2012 played a little bit. 2013 lost year to injury. 2014 started playing a lot more. 2015, started the whole season and started from 15 on. And so, it took me 5 years really of just playing games here and there where, I think I probably had 6 or 7 moments I can look back to where it was like, I need to go score on this drive or my career might be over. And so like, you got to be able to withstand a lot of those situations to be able to kind of climb out the other side. It's hard to just go in and start playing and perform well and have a long career. So, I mean, like you said, like a guy like him probably could have been successful had he, gotten a chance to grow and figure out the game a little bit more and have someone, even for himself, get out of his own way and let himself just learn the game a little bit.
Yeah, that is a lot of pressure.
Yeah, so moving forward too, and you talked a bit on the Edmonton Eskimo times you had with them, but tell us a little bit about your competition with Mike Riley, one of the bigger stars in CFL as well. Tell us what it was like competing with Mike Riley for the starting spot on the Eskimos roster.
Yeah, at that time, I felt like into 2012, I'd really kind of taken over the reins of that job, and was able to start a few games at the end of the year, threw for over 300 yards against Calgary at home to end the season. Then we went into Toronto as a playoff game, and they decided to not start me in that game, and came in at halftime when we were getting beat 30-3, and ended up injuring my ankle pretty bad in that game. And then so really going into that offseason, I think if I go into that offseason healthy, they might probably don't even trade for Mike at that point. But at that time there was a little uncertainty on how my recovery was going to end up going, and so Ed and Hervey traded for Riley, and obviously welcomed competition. I was back from that injury in about 4 months, and I thought we had a great competition going. It was a big time rebuilding time in Edmonton, where the roster probably wasn't the best, but we felt like we had some guys in there that could win games. It was a neck and neck battle for sure. I know I got to start the first preseason game, was playing well in that game, and ended up having unfortunate injury, and I think it worked out the way it was supposed to. Mike obviously had some great success there. He got to go through that 2013 season of some big time growing pains of his own, and got to stick out some up and down play, and then he really figured it out after getting that experience. And the same thing happened for me really 2015, because he got hurt. He got hurt week 1 against Toronto in a game at Fort McMurray, and I got to start, I think, 9 games at Edmonton. Once he was healthy, I got traded to Winnipeg and started the back half of the year there. So you never know kind of how things are going to play out, but it definitely played out the way it was supposed to. And both of us ended up obviously being starters and having some great competitions against each other. And I was with Mike there for two and a half years. One of my very, very good friends. We're in constant contact. Both, Washington native. Been living in Washington for 12 years or 15 years now. Both have 2 young daughters, and just so many similarities and common interests and everything. And one of the guys that I can lean on, because there's not many people that understand what you go through as a professional quarterback. So as much as we compete against each other and want to do anything we can to beat each other, we're also the first ones to support each other, because it's a very tough job, and there's a lot of things that people have no idea that you deal with in that position.
That's awesome. Nick Kowalski wrote a really great article on you, kind of debunking some of the myths that surrounded your image and how people perceived your play in the CFL. And when I mentioned that we'd be having the chance to interview you, he offered up a couple questions, and I know he's a big fan of yours as well, and obviously for your time in Winnipeg. And he mentioned that he would argue that your first start in Edmonton in 2016 was when Winnipeg turned around their franchise. So for our listeners and viewers, Winnipeg was 1-4 at that point. It's 2016, so it had been 5 years since they had made the Grey Cup. And you guys ended up winning that game 30-23 in week 6. How did it feel to bring a key piece in some people's eyes in something as so large as turning an entire franchise around after years of losing?
Yeah, something I'm super proud of, and something that, like I said, as a professional quarterback, there's just so many things that are out of your control, and it's just part of sport where people want to, they can kind of talk about sport however they want to, and talk about people however they want to. And so for me, things that I hang my hat on are things like that moment in that game, and what my teammates would say about me. And I think that was one of those games where I spent every single minute of every single day preparing for that game. I can remember vividly, that day in the hotel and leading up to that game. And, like I mentioned before, where, there's been at least 5 or 6 moments in my career where it was, you get the job done today, or else you might be done doing this. And, at that time it was, rumors everywhere of, if we don't win this game, that everyone's getting fired, and, who knows how everything shakes down after that. And so it was one of those games where it was a must win. It was I must go perform. And I don't know, there was something calming about that day. Felt super focused, came out and made some big plays early in the game. And, probably helped that I was playing in a stadium that I had just, got done being a member of that team for over 5 years. So just felt super comfortable in there. And, again, was able to play one of my better games that I've ever played, where in terms of, some of the reads I made, some of the throws I made, didn't make any mistakes. I think I threw for over 300 in that game, and actually can remember that I missed Quincy McDuffie on a field seam route where they completely blew coverage. It would have been another 60-yard touchdown. And, it's just one of those games that was definitely, one of my career-defining moments, I would say.
That's awesome. And for those that don't know, Winnipeg went on to finish the year 11-7 and made the playoffs. So definitely a key turning point, as Nick and yourself
we blew
mentioned.
an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter against BC.
Yeah, I didn't bring it up. I'm a Rider fan, so I was going to bring it up. I didn't bring it up. But.
So you're talking about some of your successes, and that being a turning point for the Winnipeg franchise. Last year, you're on career best pace for touchdowns when you got that shoulder injury in week 10. So take us through the kind of emotions that you're going through while rehabbing on the 6-game injured list. And did you think that you could make it back, or did you kind of always know that was gonna put you out?
No, yeah. Originally, when the injury happened, thought that there might be a chance to rehab and maybe get out there to finish the season. And I'm one of those guys that if they even tell me there's a chance, that I'm going to do it. And rehab for, I think it ended up being 4 or 5 weeks, and just kind of hit a point where it just wasn't going to be possible and it needed to be fixed. And so obviously that was super frustrating, because I knew what kind of team we had. It was the first time where I knew that we had the defense you need to win a Grey Cup, and everything was kind of coming together. I felt the best I had ever felt. I think for a while I was still leading the league in touchdowns when I was out for 3 or 4 weeks, and so just felt like I was playing my best football by far. And so unfortunate, but luckily I have a great support system, a wife that doesn't let me feel sorry for myself, and I've always just had this weird ability to when things are at their worst, I just am able to attack each day and each little minor victory. And it sounds cliche, but honestly, I never get to a point where I'm depressed about being hurt, not being able to be out on the field or whatever. It's just tunnel vision on doing what I need to do to get back out there. And that's what I've done. It's been a long process, and to get back from this one, and I've had a lot of great help along the way from medical people and family and all that stuff, and a lot of hard work, and something that I'm honestly super proud of, because I have 2 young daughters, and I want to be able to tell them about some of the things I've been through and things that I overcame when people want to be naysayers and get doubted by a team that even won almost 50 games for. And I think that there's something powerful in being able to just not listen to other people and go out and do what you can do. And for me, that was get back healthy, playing good football, and I can't wait to get back on the field.
Man, that's got to be firing up the Argos fan over there.
I was literally just about to say I'm so fired up for the Argos appearance now. On that note, you're fresh off signing a 3-year deal with Toronto. What made you decide that you want to tie up the next few years of your career in Toronto? Did you have other offers you're considering? What was it about Toronto?
The biggest thing is immediately when the news broke that I wasn't going to be back in Winnipeg, my phone was blowing up. Toronto, calling me and letting me know, what they thought of me and what I could bring to the table, and their belief in me. And, they didn't care that I was overcoming an injury. They wanted to do anything they could to get me in the building. And for me, I'm going into my 11th year, and that's what means the most to me, is having people that truly believe in me. And, from literally minute one of asking for my release from Winnipeg was, them letting me know that they want to fly me out immediately and get me, in their facilities and meet the coaches and just from literally, immediately showing that belief in me, honestly just got me fired up, and I didn't want to hear from anyone else. And, I just felt like it was a bit of a weird calling thing where, I went to Winnipeg when they were awful, and, was able to turn that franchise around, and obviously had a lot of great help and great support to help me do that. But at the same time, I mean, I know that I went in there and did a great job turning that franchise around. And I feel like the task isn't too big for me. And, I can't wait to get in the locker room physically with those guys. We've already, been in conversations with, most of my teammates and letting them all know how fired up I am. And I think that everyone can feel that it's going to be a different type of year in Toronto. And, I look forward to changing. The great thing about this league with 9 teams, a lot of turnover, new coaching staff, all that stuff. I mean, it's not weird for a team to go from 4-14 to 14-4. And that's, what we're looking at. Obviously this year might not be 14-4 because of the circumstances, but
7-1.
Yeah. Man, I'm fired up. Oh, I'm fired up. That's exciting, Matt. I'm super stoked.
Another question from Nick Kowalski. So obviously a big defender of yours, as we are. And he says, whenever someone says Matt Nichols is a game manager, he says to look at the Matt Nichols to Darvin Adams connection. And you guys had a great repertoire especially on the deep ball. He's wondering, and as we all are, I'm sure Zach is too, if there's an Argos receiver on the roster right now that you can see yourself having a similar connection with right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to go and work with those guys. I mean, the obvious answer is DeVaris Daniels. I mean, I think that he's shown time and time again that he can be that guy. And, I think that he's going into a situation for the first time where, he can be that number one target. He can be the guy that can take over games. And, I think that, I just look forward to working with a guy like that, where I've watched many years on the sidelines now of him just roasting us. And, I think that he has some amazing abilities, and I think that he hasn't been used to his fullest potential on other teams yet. I think that he's always been on teams with guys like Greg Ellingston and Eric Rogers and Kamar Jordan, these guys that demand a lot of footballs. And so I think that he's a guy that could really break out and show what he can really do. And I've studied more and more on him since we signed him, and I just think that he has that ability to go and change games, and I really look forward to working with him.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. That's going to be an exciting connection to watch for sure. And I wanted to shift gears back to this, Matt. You were talking about giving your daughters something to show them, like you overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, which has really seemed like a consistent theme in your career.
Yeah.
Can you speak to what's given you that strong mental makeup to continue to battle and constantly battle through it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think that some principles my dad instilled in me when I was young. Surrounded by a lot of great coaches growing up in high school. My 2 high school coaches that were, one was one was a linebacker and one was an offensive lineman, and somehow those 2 guys, I think, taught me more about playing quarterback than I've ever learned from anyone else. And it wasn't about the mechanics or how to throw a football or reading defenses. It was, I think that they showed me a lot about how to be a leader and how to really always just kind of press forward when things look bleak. And our slogan in high school is "Find a Way," and that was just something that's always stuck with me. It was just somehow do whatever it takes to find a way to get the job done. And and then growing up in a small town, the town I grew up in is actually called Cottonwood, California, which, I mean, judging by the name, I think you can get a pretty good idea. Growing up, we had there was no chain restaurants, no chain fast foods. There was no stoplights. There was more cows than people. And I don't know. I think growing up in an atmosphere like that, where it's just a bunch of hardworking people, and I never take for granted what I'm able to do, because I know that 80% of the people I went to high school with, you go right into kind of manual labor jobs and things that super honest work, but hard work, and I think that just the mentality of the people in that town and where I grew up, I think have always just kind of carried me through. And then it was just the same thing kind of throughout my whole life. I mean, I felt like I was under recruited into college. Eastern Washington was my only full scholarship offer, which I had never even heard of Eastern 3 weeks before I committed there. And
wow.
And then coming out of Eastern, I was still hold the record for Big Sky Conference all-time yardage, total yardage and passing yardage, and was a 4-year starter. Went and played at the East-West Shrine game, and I felt like I outperformed people there, and still didn't even get a combine invite. I didn't get drafted, even though Todd McShay had me as like his 5th quarterback on the board. It just kind of always seems that always kind of having to have that chip on the shoulder and prove yourself day in and day out, and just always being able to stick to that grind and not let it have it. It hasn't worn me out at all. And for whatever reason, I feel like my whole career has kind of gone that way, but just kind of refuse to fail. And like I said, it kind of goes back to that high school motto of just find a way.
That's amazing.
Love it. Yeah. So, you've explained a lot of this next question already, but you can enlighten us even more if you have been more in depth, because you already went so far in depth on this one. What is the greatest lesson football has taught you?
Oh man. Super hard to
That's a good one. Yeah.
And on one, I think it is, the ability to overcome adversity, because I do think that no matter what you do in life, I mean, that there's always going to be that adversity, whether it's, with family relationships or jobs or payments or whatever it is. And I think just finding a way to overcome all the bad things that happen and realizing what you do have, I think has always been big for me. And, that view has always evolved, I think, too. I think earlier in my career it was, it would wear at me that, I need to hold on to this career. I need to keep playing. And, now I'm able to enjoy it a little bit more, where, I've played for 10 years. I've done some great things, and, it kind of frees me up to just really enjoy everything. And I think that that's one of the biggest things football's taught me too, is no matter how big some of it seems, something's going to happen the next day and people are going to forget all about it. And, it's all about just kind of enjoying it. And, a lot of the stuff, I love listening to all the greatest, players to ever do, to play their sports, and the kind of what they have to say. And, one of the big things with, Kobe and Jordan, all those guys, is just try and enjoy the journey. And sometimes it's super hard to do, because, when I'm in it, I'm, just stressed out, or I'm, we got a big game coming up, and it's just really hard to enjoy the moments. And so I think as I've gotten older and farther into my career, I'm able to, sometimes during games, just kind of look around the stadium and realize how absolutely cool it is what I'm doing. And I think when I was younger, I was never able to do that. And so that's one of the coolest things for me now is, if you're in Mosaic and you need a 4th quarter drive to go win, and it's loud, and, you could be stressed. For me now, it's like smiles, man. Like, I get to go do this.
So cool.
That's awesome.
Let's go. Yeah, I got to see a lot of clutch plays like that. I'm a New England fan as well, so I got to see Tom Brady in those cases, and just seems like the same thing, just kind of all smiles. Let's just go get it. So
yeah, absolutely.
We wanted to keep it light to kind of close out as we kind of wrap up the interview. We got some quick hit questions for you, Matt. Yeah, and no pressure. Oh, sorry.
Whenever I get stuff, I'm gonna think about this an hour later and be like, man, why did I say that? I should have said. I never say what I actually wish I could say. I feel like I'm just like not that great at quick fire for some reason.
It's the fun stuff. That's what's fun
Okay,
about it.
we'll have you on
glad
again,
you
man.
said that. I'm glad you said that because this next question, if you say the wrong answer, I'm gonna just assume that it's exactly what you just said, that you just went the wrong way. So Matt Nichols, which of the third and wrong hosts, Zach, Steve, or I, has the face of a franchise quarterback?
Oh man, definitely Zach.
Oh,
I knew it.
I knew it. Yes.
I absolutely knew it.
Just come join me at the Argos meeting rooms this year.
Yes.
Oh,
There you go,
That would
man.
yes. That's so sick.
I'll be
Star Wars
kicking
shirts.
it. I'll be kicking it with the offensive line then.
Yeah, I'll be in there at 5 a.m. watching film with Star Wars on my iPad right next to the film.
I love it,
There you
man.
go, man.
I
Okay,
love
Zach's
it.
driving to Toronto in September, I guess.
Oh yeah.
God willing, man. All right, Matt, a couple more fast ones for you. Are you bringing the Vince McMahon / Conor McGregor strut to Toronto?
Oh man, I think that was probably a one-time thing. I don't know that I can. I think that it was weird because for some reason Strev and I were talking about it in the locker room before the game, and I don't know. I threw some deep post touchdown or something, and I just glanced over the sidelines, and I saw Strev like flexing at me, and I just started doing it. I don't know why, because we were talking about it last game, and now it's like a GIF, and it's all like. And then it was actually the craziest thing was like the next day, because that was a Saturday game, I think. The next day, Conor McGregor was at a Cowboys game, and Dak Prescott did it, and I'm like, those guys must have been watching the CFL last night, and getting ready for the pregame, copying
Let's
me.
go.
That's burned in my brain because that was against Saskatchewan that you did that, and you just kicked our ass that game. So
because it was a Saturday game.
yeah. Last one from Nick here. Speaking of Chris Streveler, what's one thing that about Chris Streveler that most people wouldn't know about him?
Oh man, that he can freestyle rap.
Oh wow.
Oh. Ooh,
He actually,
that's awesome.
yeah, that's what he did for. It's kind of a common thing to just there's no hazing or anything that happens anymore, but most teams kind of have you get up and sing in front of the guys if you're a rookie, and I think he got up there and it was probably shirt off and did a freestyle rap up there and kind of got the whole place going. And so I don't know, man, like he's like my little brother, and one of the most fun people I've ever been around. He helps keep me young, and the guy that I talk to every single day.
That's awesome, man. We're wishing him the best of luck in the NFL there as well.
Yeah, he diced up the Alouettes on multiple occasions, so I still.
He did have some really good games against them.
Yeah. I also have a video of Steve freestyle rapping, so we got to get Streveler on a Steve versus Streveler freestyle rap battle.
That does not need to be seen by anyone, especially Matt Nichols or any CFL player that I have the pleasure of interviewing. Last question, Matt, and most important question we ask here at the Amateur Agency on Third and Wrong. Does ketchup belong on craft dinner?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, Matt. I love it. That's
one thing I do love that I'd never seen before until I went to Canada is ketchup chips. Like, they don't have those down here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going up there the first time I saw them, I was like, what on earth is it? Then, man, I tried some, and those things are good. They're addicting. So, I mean, I get the ketchup craze, but absolutely it doesn't belong on craft dinner.
Oh, man.
100%. Do you put anything on your craft dinner, Matt? Like
no,
pepper?
Absolutely. And we don't even call it craft dinner. I don't know what you guys do. We don't. It's just mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Love it.
I know what you guys are talking about, though. Like I said, I've been in Canada for over a decade now, so I got it all down.
Same thing. Yeah, it's good.
Matt, thanks again and for coming on and sharing your story. I'd love to have you back on real soon. Where can everyone find you on social media? It looks like you're on Twitter and Instagram from what I've seen.
Yeah, those are the only two for me, and it's at Matt Nichols 16.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what's in store for your summer now? I just got to keep busy with all this going on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I got a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they give us the run around all day long. They're relentless, and for us, it's been pretty decent weather here, so we were able to teach my 6-year-old how to ride her bike with no training wheels and do all that stuff. I've done some landscaping around the house, which, for here, we don't get the same temperatures as you guys, but we get kind of more snow. And so we have usually 4 or 5 months of snow. So I'm never here when it's nice out. So I'm actually able to, I laid some sod here. I'm able to like take care of my house, which I never get to do because I'm never here when it's out. And so there are some things that are pretty cool. And then, now golf courses have just opened up here. And so, I'm a big golfer. Like I said earlier, I played high school golf and golfed all through college. And used to be a scratch golfer before I had kids. And so now I'm high 70s guy. And then pretty much just work out. I finished my master's a week ago.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Done with that, which was a big chunk of time that's freed up now. I almost feel weird that I just like don't have that much to do. And then I also got a Peloton bike. So if anyone rides a Peloton, it's a Matty Ice 16 with no spaces. If anyone wants to, see what the rides are all about. I feel like that's the craziest thing though. I feel like I smash on this bike, and there's dudes, they'll say like in his 50s from Massachusetts, and this guy will be like 100 points ahead of me. I don't know how this guy these people are nuts on there, but it's like a fun way for me to work out and compete. So that's something that my wife and I got a couple months ago, and something I've really been enjoying because it's cardio, but I get to compete with people and compete with myself. It's pretty cool.
There you go. I might have to get on that. I've the COVID-15's turned into like the COVID-20 now, and it's only climbing. So,
right. Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at SteveBolin22, and you can find me on Instagram at SteveBolin_. Ozzy, where can the fine folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at AustinPaul_. That's Austin with a Y, not an I, you cowards.
Easy now. All right. And Zach?
Well, you can find me living the dream on Twitter at Zach Foth and on Instagram at ZachFoth_.
Matt, thanks again. Everyone, make sure you check out his socials at Matt Nichols 16 and go race him on the Peloton bike as well. Matt, thank you for coming out again, man. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. It was a lot of fun.
Take care.